YouTube, it's Zoe or Read by Zoe, and today I'm going to give some more book recommendations. This is part 2, so obviously there is a part 1 and I will leave that down below, but all of you asked me to give some more book recommendations, and that's what I'm gonna do today, obviously, because I already said it like 10 times. So let's get started. The first book that I'm going to recommend is Since You've Been Gone by Morgan Matson. In the first book recommendations video, I recommended Amy and Roger's Epic Detour by Morgan Matson, which I love, but I think that I love this even more, if that is possible. This book is about a girl named Emily who is in her best friend Sloane's shadow, and she loves it that way. Sloane is just more outgoing and she lives life to the fullest. Emily's just happy to be along for the ride. Then one day, Sloane just falls off the face of the earth. Emily keeps calling and texting and going by her house, but she's getting no response from Sloane. Then one day, Emily gets in the mail a letter from Sloane that has 13 tasks that Sloane wants Emily to complete that summer. Things like go skinny dipping and sleep under the stars, stuff like that. Slowly, she makes her way through the list trying to figure out where Sloane is, and also she's getting herself out of her comfort zone. She also befriends a boy man named Frank Porter, and, you know, things happen, and you'll figure out when you read it because it's really, really good. It also has that certain Morgan Matson thing where it's not just prose, there's also some playlists in here. It's not as crazy as Amy and Roger's Epic Detour where there are receipts and maps and things like that. In here, it's just playlists and lists and things like that. It is just such a great book, and I really connected to the main character, Emily. She changes so much in this book. The character development is just through the roof. You really understand these people. They are very complex. Next, I'm going to recommend the Throne of Glass series by Sarah J. Maas. It is an amazing fantasy series where there is magic and violence and assassins and revenge, interesting characters, an interesting monarchy, foreign lands. It is a wild ride. Throne of Glass is about this teenage girl named Selena Sardathian who was the most notorious assassin of the land, and because of that she was kidnapped and put in a death camp for about a year. Within that year though, the Prince Dorian comes and releases her so that she can be his tribute for his dad's competition to find his own personal assassin or champion, but it's really just his own personal assassin who can assassinate whoever he wants. She doesn't like to assassinate people, she has a conscience, but because she wants her freedom, she agrees to become a tribute, and throughout this she is fighting to become that champion. It's very heart-pounding, and you start to love all of the men in here. Just kidding, not all the men. Some of the men are quite terrible, but Dorian and Kale Westfall, they are two hunks, and later there are more hunks. The guys are written really well, but Selena Sardathian is such a great character. She does not need no man, and she just really gets you to want to become more kick butt. The next book that I'm going to recommend is 13 Reasons Why by Jay Asher. This book is about a teenage boy named Clay Jensen who randomly receives a shoebox full of tapes in the mail, and he's not sure who it's from because there's no return address or why he got it. He starts listening to the tapes and he realizes that the voice on the tapes is the voice of a girl named Hannah Baker who just committed suicide. There are 13 tapes, and on each tape it talks about a different person and why he or she led to her committing suicide. He's panicking because he's not sure why he got the tape. He really liked Hannah Baker and he's not sure how he fits in, but eventually he starts to understand the whole picture and understand why she committed suicide. Hannah also gave a map to the 13 people who were going to receive these tapes, and on the map it shows different locations and how it fits into the story. Clay goes to all of these locations, well, he goes to most of the locations, and he really starts to get involved in her story and realizes that every single person has an effect on everybody else. It's a really intense and at times scary story, but I was enthralled the entire time, and it just makes you realize that you have an effect on everybody else, no matter how insignificant of an action that you do. It's so intense, which I already said. I'm so happy that I read it because it really did start to change the way that I think about my actions. and it was just really good. On a lighter note, the next series that I'm going to recommend is Confessions of a Shopaholic by Sophie Kinsella. I have the first 5 books, and I've only read the first 4, but I am definitely going to get caught up with the series very soon. It is so lighthearted and very, very funny, but there is a moral in there somewhere. You just kind of have to dig a little bit. The first book, Confessions of a Shopaholic, is about a 20-something girl named Rebecca Bloomwood who is a shopaholic. Obviously. She lives in a trendy London neighborhood in a fancy apartment with her best friend Suze, and she buys everything from clothes and shoes and bags to food and stationery. She just cannot stop herself from spending, and because of that and the fact that she doesn't have a really high-paying job, she is in crippling debt. The job that she works at is as a financial journalist at a magazine called Successful Savings, and she's just really bad at her job. She doesn't care about anything that has to do with finance, obviously, because she's in debt, and she just writes things from pamphlets and doesn't really come up with anything original until she meets with her neighbor and realizes that they have a really interesting story to tell and something that she's really passionate about. So she is going on trying to tell everybody about this financial story while also having to deal with the bank trying to get her to pay off her debt. And so it's funny because she's trying to tell people what to do with their money while also trying to figure out what to do with her lack of money. It's really funny. It doesn't sound that funny when I just tell you the plot, but it is so hilarious. Rebecca is such a silly character. She's really dumb at times and you just want to smack her and say, no, stop shopping, just get your life together. But she learns so much at the end of every single book. Her character development throughout the entire series is crazy and so much happens. It's not just about her buying clothes and things like that. Throughout the whole series, she gets married and she has a child and she gets more family members and all of that. It's really just nice to see how she progresses, and she always does have that shopaholic streak in her. The next book I'm going to recommend is Ready Player One by Ernest Cline. This is about a dystopian world in the year 2044 where there are limited resources left, so everyone just stays inside and logs on to this virtual reality experience called the Oasis. They put on some glasses and on some glove things, and they are submerged into this world where there is everything from shopping and church and school. The creator of the Oasis dies and he leaves behind this very complicated scavenger hunt. The one person who can solve the scavenger hunt, though, gets the entire company and all of the riches and everything that comes with it. The main character named Wade, he is very into solving the entire scavenger hunt. He is obsessed with the creator of the Oasis, and he really wants to get out of his aunt's house and get more money and just do what he wants to do. Wade goes to school in the Oasis and he stumbles across the first clue, which just starts a domino effect and everything gets crazy really quickly. He meets a lot of other cool people who are trying to solve the scavenger hunt. They kind of team up, and he also meets some villains who are a big company trying to overtake the company of the Oasis and just trying to monetize everything. They're very evil. The cool thing about this book is that it revolves heavily around video games and 80s culture. I feel like if you know more about those two things, you'll like this book a little bit more. Even if you don't know a lot about video games or 80s things, I feel like you'll really enjoy this book, and it's really original and fun to read. The next book I'm going to recommend is The Last Song by Nicholas Sparks, and I'm not too much of a Nicholas Sparks book fan. I think at this point I've read 4 of his books, and I usually like the movies way more, except in this case. This I liked even more than the movie, and I love the movie with Miley Cyrus and Liam Hemsworth when they were dating, when they were first dating, and they were a beautiful couple. I love it so much. This is just a masterpiece, and I know he wrote the book just so that it would be turned into a movie that would star Miley Cyrus, but I don't know why it's better if it was just written to become a movie, but it is, and I love it. This book is about a 17-year-old girl named Ronnie Miller who is insanely talented at piano. Her father is a piano teacher, so they just go hand in hand. They love playing piano together and just hanging out together. They are best friends until her dad decides to walk out on her mom and they get divorced. From that point on, Ronnie refuses to talk to her dad and she becomes rebellious. She starts partying and doing things that she shouldn't, and she refuses to play piano. She does not talk to her dad until she is forced to go to her dad's house with their little brother for the summer, and she hates every single part about it. She meets this boy named Will, and they fall in love, and they teach each other things, and she comes out of her shell and starts to love life again. Then other things happen, and it's very heartfelt and very sad, heart-wrenching. You will cry. I cried so much reading this book. I read it, I think, 3 or 4 years ago, but it still stays to me to this day. It's my favorite Nicholas Sparks book. It's the only one that I truly loved, and I definitely recommend it if you love romance, if you love family, if you just love books. I would recommend this to you. The last book I'm going to recommend is Outlander by Diana Gabaldon. This is about a woman named Claire Randall who lives in the year 1945 and was an army nurse in World War II. After the end of the war, her and her husband Frank go on a second honeymoon to the Scottish Highlands, and there she touches a boulder that brings her back in time to the year 1743. At this time, the Scottish Highlands was torn apart by war between the Scottish and the British, and she is accused of being a spy both for the Scottish because she is taken by a Scottish clan, and for the British because she is a British woman. She is really scared of what is going to happen to her, but then she meets a strapping young lad named Jamie Fraser, and everything is right in the world because he is beautiful and manly, and I love him. He is just, oh, he's beautiful, and I love their relationship together. There's more than just romance in this book though, even though there is a very steamy and great romance in this book. There's a lot of politics and history. I learned a lot about the time period just by reading this, and I am really interested in the Scottish Highlands now. This fantastic series has a fantastic show on Starz. As you can see, I bought the DVD version of the first part of the first season. I cannot get enough of it. Sam Heughan and this. So those are my book recommendations, part 2. I hope you all enjoyed. I hope you added some books to your TBR. Please request any videos you'd like me to make in the future down below, and I will talk to you later. Bye!